Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good. Okay, so this is the second round draw for the 27th edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard Game. In the first round, we started with 37 people playing along. Now we're down to 21 after a whole bunch of you fell at the first fence. So I'm just going to quickly run through who those fighters are. They are A, laugh my ass off, and AZ, Canhego Ruiz, C Collins 44, Cheeseball, Cool Hand Puke, Costradamus, Damien Handel 420, Dr. Maxis 2, Foghorn Sam, KK Kombu, Knife Rusty, Mule Floyd, Piggy Bank, Rigno, Shat, Cian 6, me, Stephen Terry, the MMA Historian, Trig, Ubermatch, and Ex-Con Chris. Okay, so they are the lucky bastards still in this game. So see what we got for this round coming up. We've got UFC Fight Night, Henry Cejudo versus Yadong Song. And again, there's some. I know I've said in the last few videos that this is a case of the veteran against the up and comer. It's not. It feels like that, but it really isn't actually. As Yadong Song has actually got more experience, but more fights under his belt, quite a few more fights under his belt um, than Henry Cejudo in MMA. But Cejudo is obviously the older one, got the Olympic experience as well before MMA. Obviously, former UFC double champ as well on top of that. But it's a very tight one for me to try and pick because my head is saying Yadong Song, my heart's saying Henry Cejudo. Um, Henry Cejudo has fought higher level opposition. He's been the champion, but that was a little well, it was a while ago now. It's been about 4 years since his last win. Uh, and Yadong Song, he's just been on the up. He's just been uh just rising up through the bantamweight division, and yeah, it's a case of logically, I want to go with Song because it makes sense as of recent form, but for me, it's just that I can't forget all that previous experience that Cejudo's has, and I think that would be enough to carry him through to a decision win here. Although I will admit that is mostly a heart pick rather than a head pick. Um, anyway, I've got Cejudo for a decision there, but you're not here to listen to me ramble. You're here to see who you're getting drawn with in the Lucky Bastard game. So let's get on with it. Let's start this thing. First up is A, by the way. Forgot to mention that. And he gets A with Austin Vanderford. Austin Vanderford there. Uh, would quickly mention the lack of sound on the wheel there. I don't know why that is. I've got a new laptop now, so I've done a couple of tests of this, and it seems to be picking up my audio on the video, but it doesn't seem to pick up the wheels sound effects. I'm not sure why that is, but I'm sure we can live without the wheels little ticking sounds. But anyway, as for A with Austin Vanderford there, and yeah, coming in on literally about a day's notice to fight Nikolay Verentennikov. Probably not pronounced that right. Apologies if not, but despite the short notice fight, I still fancy him to get the win simply because he's a very experienced fighter, former, even though this is his UFC debut, but former Bellator quite high ranked. He was actually had a title fight, didn't he, against I'm tempted to say Gegard Mousasi, wasn't it? At the time, and lost that one, but in a Bellator title fight, it's no mean feat. Uh, and yeah, it's as for Varentikov, he lost on his UFC debut, but he got some decent regional wins, and it's similar record to Vanderford, but Vanderford definitely has the better quality record, and that should be enough to see him through. Uh, so yeah, Vanderford for a decision's my pick for that one. So I think it's quite a good pick for A. And even if Vanderford doesn't win this fight, he's the ex-husband of Paige Van Zandt, so still a winner. On to Canhego Ruiz next. And let's see who he'll be drawn with. And Canhego Ruiz gets Javid Basharat. Javid Basharat there for Canhego Ruiz. And I think that's a fairly safe pick, to be honest. He wins most of his fights by decision, but he's very effective in doing that. He lost his last fight against the Harvey by decision, funny enough, but overall, he's that's been working very well for him. In fact, that was his only loss of his career so far, 14-1, up against Ricky Simon, who's just he's been really poor form as of late. Let's be honest, a three-fight losing streak. His last win was over 2 years ago now, and against somebody who, up until their last fight, was found a method of victory that would have consistently got him wins. Yeah, it's. I think this is quite a safe pick, to be honest. I think we can fully expect to see Canhego Ruiz in the next round. So that's about as good as you can hope for, really, from the wheel for as of tonight's picks. There's a couple ones I'd say are maybe better than that, but other than that, I'd say that's definitely one of the better ones. So Canhego Ruiz could count as lucky stars. And move on to C. Collins 44 now. Let's see if C. Collins would be as lucky as Kenhago Reeves was. And he gets the undefeated Gene Matsumoto. Gene Matsumoto there for C. Collins 44. And that's definitely a what I would consider a safe pick against Rob Font. It's a close fight in terms of the odds, but I personally am favouring Matsumoto. Again, another short notice replacement because I mean, because this card's been absolutely destroyed by injuries and last minute pullouts, so it's got people from all over coming in to save fights and that, and Gene Matsumoto is one of them. Um, and yeah, he's still undefeated, and Rob Font, on the other hand, he's again more experienced. He's been around the bantamweight uh, division for a while now. He's fought the best of them, but he can't seem to get past a certain level. It's just a case of once he gets to the sort of the fighters that are in line to challenge for a title or vying for a title challenge, he doesn't quite seem to, or at least not as of late anyway, uh, seem to get past them. Um, I say I like when I say that, I mean I'm talking about the likes of Figueiredo, Sandhagen, Vera. They, he's they're the ones that he's lost to as of late. Is Gene Matsumoto in that company? Not quite, but he's not too far off in my opinion. He's getting there, and I think is good enough at the moment to get a decision over Rob Font. So I think that's quite a good pick there for C Collins 44. In fact, this has been quite good so far. I got off to a good start. The wheel's obviously feeling generous. Let's see if he'll extend that goodwill to Cheeseball, who is up next to face the wheel. And another one I'm very confident in, Ibo Aslan. So, yeah, seems that he extends that to Cheeseball. Ibo Aslan, very exciting prospects. Yeah, they always are when they, especially KO artists like that. When you got somebody who's sort of fairly young, coming, was 28 years old, but still by MMA standards, still fairly young, still got several good years in him, still approaching his prime. And he goes around knocking the fuck out of everybody. It's a good start, and it gets you excited. Um, not quite. his experience though, that's where he's lacking. His opponent, Ion Kutalaba, for instance, is much more experienced with 18 wins, 10 losses, one draw. Um, but the trouble is a case of he's not really. I was going to describe him as a bit of a gatekeeper. I'm not even sure if that's a fair description, really. He's just there in the rankings. He's just, well, I don't know if he is in the rankings, but I don't think he is. But he's in the UFC anyway. But it's it'd probably be fair to rank his Ibo Aslam uh, after this win, but Kutalaba though just very inconsistent. Even though he has got the more experience, got he's fought better opposition, but he's not got great results against them. Um, and he has been knocked out quite a few times in the past. And that's just a bad matchup against someone like Aslan, who's going around knocking everybody out. So I think Cheeseballs should be fairly happy with that pick. Cool Hand Puke is next to face the wheel. Let's see who Cool Hand Puke is going to be matched with. And he gets Mel Quizale Costa. Mel Quizale Costa there for Cool Hand Puke. And it's the first time the wheel's drawn somebody that I personally haven't picked. Is up against Andre Philly. It is a very close fight, to be fair, and I did think about this one for quite a while. I start with Costa, obviously, because he's the one that's been drawn. Is 2-2 in the UFC. Also fought for the LFA previously. Um, as for Andre Philly, again, he's got more experience, 24 wins and 11 losses compared to Costa's 21 wins, 7 losses. Um, but the difference between that is the fact that Andre Philly has been in the UFC for much longer. Whereas I mentioned Costa's 2-2 in the UFC, Andre Philly is 12-10 in the UFC. And with 22 fights in the UFC compared to four, that's experience is going to make a big difference in the fight, in my opinion. And that's the thing that separates these two for me. Just the UFC experience. So I've got Andre Philly winning a decision for that one. Um, so yeah, that's the first one that I'm not overly confident in, to be honest. But we'll see maybe if the wheel feels a little bit more generous to Costradamus, who's next up. And he gets Eric Mokino, Mokonico or something. I don't fucking know. Sorry about that one, Eric. I'm just gonna call him Eric Nico, I think it is. But yeah, Eric, that would do for me. Right. So as for Eric, he's up against Nurse Sultan Ruziboff, and yeah, quite frankly, I think it's going to similar to the last fight. He's just completely outmatched in terms of experience, whereas Eric is 9 wins. It's not two, no two. It's 9 wins, 2 losses, one draw. And making his UFC debut, Ruziboff, has already had 3 fights in the UFC, 2-1. But it's 34 wins, 9 losses, and 2 draws. So it's a huge, huge gap in experience. Um, it's and Roosevelt he's quite an interesting one. I was looking over him because I mostly associate I've mostly seen his UFC performances, obviously, and I had him in my mind as a bit of a knockout artist. So when I was looking over his stats, I was quite surprised to see that he's actually won most of his fights by submission, or at least more of his fights by submission than by knockout. But for some reason, when he's come to the UFC, he's decided to start knocking the fuck out of people, which that's always effective, isn't it? Uh, and because of that, I've got him to win by first round knockout against Eric. And It's just going to simply going to be a case of his Eric's going to find himself out of his depth, and yeah, sooner or later we get Sparks out. If he can survive the first round, I can't see him surviving too much longer, to be honest. Okay, so yeah, that's not a great pick in my opinion. The first one I can say I'll be very surprised if they make it through. Anyway, we'll move on to Damien Handel 420. Let's see if the wheel starts to feel kinder again. See who Damien Handel's going to get. And he gets Julius Walker. Julius Walker there for Damien Handel. And up against Alonso Menefeld, who, again, I've got him, Menefeld to win by a first round, although this time by first round submission. And again, there's a huge gap in experience with Julius Walker just being 6-0, still undefeated, to be fair to him. Still uh, good looking prospect so far, but against Menefeld, he's got 15 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. Um, it's yeah, it's again, it's a mismatch in terms of experience when you look at it on paper. The only thing going for Julius Walker though is that he is very good at finishing fights. 4 of his 6 wins by KO, which could serve him very well as Menefeld is currently on a 2 fight KO losing streak. So there are a few questions there. Has his chin gone? Is he starting to get a little bit washed? Personally, I don't think so, or at least not to the state that somebody as inexperienced as Walker could knock him out. He's still going to be able to survive Walker, in my opinion. Um, as for why I picked Menefeld by sub, might seem a bit of a strange one, seeing he's not exactly one to shy away from stand-up battle. He'd be looking to get back in the win column, and against Walker, who's predominantly a KO artist, he does have 2 submission wins on his record. There's the other 2 victories. But Menefeld's just much better on the ground by the looks of it, and that would be the path of least resistance in order to get a win. It'd be much wiser just to take Walker down and try and finish him on the ground than he would be to stand and bang with him. Um, so yeah, I think if he plays it smart, it should easily be able to find a way of beating Julius Walker there. So yeah, not another not a great one I'm overly confident in, but anyway, let's move on to the Dr. Maxis 2. See what the wheel's got in store for you. See who's going to be paired up with. And Dr. Maxis also gets Mel Quizale Acosta. And yeah, as I've said before against Andre Philly, just far more UFC experience as just than Costa. That's the thing that separates the 2 fighters for me. Um, so I would say Costa's probably got them. Try and play devil's advocate here, seeing we've now got both Cool Hand Puke and Doctor Maxis too side of him. I would say that if the fight is going to end early, it's more likely that Costa will be the one who finishes it. Um, I think probably by KO, but I just don't. I think Philly's going to be. He's just going to be too smart, too experienced to and just avoid that. So I can't see what Costa can throw at him that you wouldn't have already seen in his previous 22 UFC fights. Um, so yeah, that's how I read it. To be honest, Andre Philly's to win that one, so just not really confident at all in Dr. Max's or Cool Hand Puke's chances. I'm afraid, but maybe the world's got better news for Foghorn Sam, who's up next. Started so well as the first few ones came out. I thought, yeah, they're really good ones, and then Will started to turn on them. And anyway, Foghorn Sam gets one of the co-main eventers, Anthony Hernandez, and obviously he's in the main event, or not co-main event rather, not the main event against Brendan Allen. Um, in a middleweight title fight. Or not. Why am I talking about fucking title fights? Or this is a fight night card. I don't know where that slipped. Middleweight fight against Brendan Allen in the co-main event. I've completely fucked that one up. Um, could you imagine that a fight night card and there's a co-main event title fight? Oh, we can dream, can't we? Anyway, um, but as I was saying just before that major gaff, I was hoping that maybe the wheel would we're feeling a little kinder. But it seems not because I've got Brendan Allen to win that one by second round submission. And again, it's largely just down to the experience gap as well, with Anthony Hernandez 13-2, Brendan Allen 24-6. There seem to be some of these fights are maybe they're closer than I'm making them out to be, but in terms of experience, which is a factor I do rate you very heavily when it comes to making picks, um, I just it's it's just a case of I can't ignore that it's just that what one fighter's been in the ring, been in the cage rather, with other people trying to kill them, trying to knock them out, submit them. And it does build you as a fighter. It builds character. It makes you more resilient fighter, smarter fighter. It is a huge thing, and it's the same way when you look at training. I see all these videos of fighters hitting pads and whatnot. I'm not interested in that. I want to see how they look in sparring. But I don't know. Maybe just maybe a bit of an old school view. I don't know, but anyway, as for Anthony Hernandez, how does he win this fight? Before I got sidetracked between that little rant I went on there, I've got him to win by submission simply because he's, in my opinion, one of the best grapplers in the middleweight division. And even if he, and I say that he's probably better on the grounds than even the recent title challengers appear to be. Um, except obviously, yeah, I'm trying to think. Who else would I say is a better on the ground in the middleweight division than Brendan Allen? I don't know. I genuinely do not know. I think I'd say probably the champion Dricus du Plessis. Obviously, perhaps Israel Adesanya as well. It's not proven not to be too bad. But the other title contenders, Allen's always in with the chance of getting a submission over them. Um, except for Imavov, because he did lose to Imavov last time out. Thinking about it, but so I'm not sure why he couldn't. Well, I think I had him to win against Imavov as well at that time, so I'm not sure why he couldn't find a submission there. But anywho, he's up against Anthony Hernandez, who obviously is the heavy, not heavy favorite. He is a moderate favorite at least. Um, more of a striker though, so that's what. I'd, when it comes to one of these sort of matchups where it's the striker versus the grappler, I do tend to favour the grappler more. And in that case, this is definitely Brendan Allen. So, but I don't know. Let's see if my little worldview might get shattered um on Saturday. Folk on Sound will certainly be hoping so. But anyway, next is KK Kombu. Let's see who the wheels got in store for KK Kombu. Also with Anthony Hernandez. So yeah, not really much else I can say about that, having spent the last few months just rambling about. Well, to be fair, I spent more time rambling about bloody Brendan Allen than I did Anthony Hernandez. I try to actually talk about the fighters that got drawn this time. Right, anyway, so Anthony as a yeah, less experienced, but he is in better form recently. I'll give him that. Six fight win streak at the moment. And not too bad on the ground, but I don't think he's any real match for Allen in that department. But I suppose, yeah, I think the only thing really going for him is his recent form, his six fight win streak, and the fact that Allen's coming off a loss. But I think again that can make a fighter more dangerous sometimes coming off a loss. especially against Imavov. That's not a bad loss at all because he's up there with the title challengers in the division. So yeah, I just don't see how Anthony Hernandez is such a heavy favourite. I could understand him being a slight favourite given the recent form, but last I checked, the bookies had him at like minus 340, which I don't get. I simply don't understand why it's that heavy. Um, so anyway, maybe I ought to check out the odds on Brendan Allen, seeing I'm so confident in him, really. But I try not to gamble too much these days. Uh, and if you do have a bet, obviously do it within your means. Obviously, be sensible. Don't go remortgaging your house or flat or spending the rent money or your drug money or anything else on the more important things in life. Not worth it just for a bet. Gamble responsibly, anyway. Just a little disclaimer to throw out there. Anyway, long and short of it is Falcon Sam, KK Kombu, both with Anthony Hernandez. I think that Brendan Allen's going to beat Anthony Hernandez. Simple as. And Knife Rusty is next to learn his fate at the hands of the wheel. Also with Javid Basharat, one of the fighters I am more confident in him. Um, as I've said, is before who else got just to quickly double check that who else got drawn with Diddley Doodah Basharat? Yeah, it was Canhego Ariz, wasn't it? It's but as I mentioned when it came up for Canhego Ariz, wins mostly by decisions, but that was very effective for him. It was his his last loss was the first of his career. And as I just mentioned in the previous one against about Brendan Allen, that makes can make a fighter more dangerous, more hungry, especially if it's the first loss of his career. He'll be absolutely determined not to make it, obviously not lose again, but not make it two in a row either. As a hero, a prospect like Basharat, who's in the UFC, made a good start, but not necessarily the most popular among the more casual fans due to constantly getting decisions rather than highlight reel knockouts or bone snapping subs. Uh, you got to get the wins to back it up if you haven't got as much casual support, which there doesn't appear to be for Basharat. So in his case, losses would probably set him back more than the more spectacular types would feel. Um, so yeah, considering that, I have to say he's got to go out and just get back in the win column. And I can't see him doing that by going out and being more aggressive. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll feel like because he lost on the cards last time, he he can't rely on the judges to take out the judges' hands. But I don't know. It's just everything is just saying that it's again, especially against Ricky Simon, who's been in pretty bad form as of late. I just can't see any reason to not pick Bashrat or not back him for this one. Um, I say Ricky Simon is more experienced, but not massively so. Uh, but Bashrat's probably spent more time in the ring, given how often he goes to the final bell with all those three rounders and all the 3 round wars he's been in. But anyway, I think before I start getting to sound like a broken record, it's move on anyway. So Javi Basharat, Knife Rusty. I think Knife Rusty's going through. And we move on to Mule Floyd now. Let's see the wheels got in store for Mule Floyd. And he gets Rob Font. Rob Font there for Mule Floyd. So obviously that puts him up against Diddley Doodah, Anthony Hernandez, who have just spent ages. No, not Anthony Hernandez. Fucking what the fuck? Oh, fucking written him in the wrong box, haven't I? Oh, that's what I've done. Right, just let's sort that one out. Rob Font against Gene Matsumoto. That's it, not Anthony Hernandez. Written him on the. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. It. Yeah. Oh yeah, just bear with me a second because I think I've seen what I've done here. I've just I've typed Rob Font into Piggy Bank's box, who's next up, rather than Mule Floyd, and somehow changed the color of one of the boxes. Don't know how I've done that. Just give me a second while I fix that. Right, right, there we go. Yeah, because when I first did that, I came up with Anthony Hernandez again. Like, what? Hang on, what the fuck? That was what came up. But all right, so I fixed that now. Obviously, uh, that's all correct now. So Mule Floyd with Rob Font up against Gene Matsumoto, and as I said, that puts him up against who had Gene Matsumoto earlier? C. Collins, 44 did. That was it. Um, so yeah, that's I've gone with Gene Collins and Matsumoto earlier by decision. Uh, he is taking this fight at short notice though, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem for him. From what I've heard about it, it sounds like he was already he was already preparing for an upcoming fight anyway. Can't think who it was off the top of my head now, but already preparing for an upcoming fight, so he's already training in camp. So I don't think the short notice is going to affect him too much. Um, whereas so yeah, as for Rob Font anyway, the more experienced of the two, he's got that in his favour. But um, as I said previously, he's just struggles against some of the ones in the higher up in the bantamweight division against Figueiredo, Sandhagen, Vera. He won against Kyler Phillips last time out, but that's not really. He's a good fighter, but I'd take Matsumoto over Kyler Phillips any day, won't I? I think most people would. Um, so yeah, I think he's going to struggle up against the undefeated contender in Matsumoto. Right, piggy bank now. Now that we've got his box cleared, and not accidentally assigning him the wrong fighters and all that. Um, piggy bank's next. Let's see who he really gets. Right, he's rather than Anthony Hernandez or whatever. He gets piggy bank gets Melsik Bagdasarian, which I know full well I've not pronounced that right. So yeah, Bag had how are we spelling that? Bagh uh D-A-S uh D-A-S Sorry, yeah, no, they probably not spelled that right, but it's close enough. Right, Melsik Baggers Melsik. We're just going to call him Melsik for the sake of diplomatic relations. Up against Gene Silver. Um, he's a pretty big underdog, not going to lie. It's L6 like 400 or plus 400. Uh, and but again, that's probably I'd mostly put that down to the fact that this is his first fight for about what 1.5 years. So is ring rust going to be a problem for him? I think it will be, to be honest, because again, that's another thing I'm a firm believer in is yeah, ring rust and Gene Silver, obviously more active, is heavy favourite. Won all of his three UFC fights so far, all by knockout. Yeah, yeah, I think Gene Silver's gonna. I think if Melsick gets off to a slow start, which a lot of fighters coming back from a bit of a break sometimes do, that's going to cost him because I think right from the opening, right from the opening, the horn, it's going to be Silver jumping all over him, or right up in his face. And will he be able to deal with that sustained pressure, that early pressure? I don't know. Perhaps he might survive a round, but I've got Silver to knock him out in the seconds. So, yeah, I'm not overly confident in that one for piggyback. Rigno next is to face the wheel, and he gets Eric again. Uh, Eric again there. Not gonna. Who else got Eric earlier? So Kostradamus was the fight as the uh player that got Eric. So that's two on the Eric hype train. Um, although I don't know how much of a hype train there can really be with. Well, it would certainly end if it is if there is one currently going. As Sultan Ruziboev, a first round knockout, as far more experienced than him, and I say got off to a very explosive start in his UFC career. He's certainly come into the UFC looking to impress with a couple of big knockouts. No reason at all why he's not looking at this as a more experience. Say, well, I've got so much more experience. Why don't I just go and knock him out as well? It seems to be that this is another perfect fighter, really, for him to start to build a bit of hype for himself, a bit of highlight reel material there. And he's certainly more than capable of doing that. So, yeah, Sultan Ruziboev to knock out Eric in the first round and subsequently knock out Rigno. And what was it? Is it Costradamus, did I say just now? That had, yeah, Costradamus with Eric. So Costradamus, Rigno, not overly confident in your chances of getting through, to be completely honest. Okay, so we move on to Shat. Let's see who Shat gets drawn with for his second round, and he's also getting Eric. Everyone's on the Eric train. Let's all go around to Eric's. Yeah, so let's just all go around to Eric's and watch our boy get knocked the fuck out by an Sultan Ruziboev. Yep, not really much else I can add on to that. I've gone over it two times now and spent the last couple of minutes rambling about how he's going to get knocked out. I suppose all I can do is try play devil's advocate here. Let's try. Um, yeah, seems fairly well rounded so far from what we've seen of him. But nothing. If I'm being honest, there's nothing particularly that stands out that would cause somebody of Ruzabov's caliber any any real problems. So yeah, um, don't go around to Eric's. That's that's my advice anyway. So Shat's Rigno, Costradamus, all with Eric. And I'm not at all confident you're going through, to be honest. Right. So excuse me. All right. CN6 next. Face the wheel. Is he also going to be taking a trip round to Eric's, or is he's? Oh no, he gets Anthony Hernandez this time again. Anthony Hernandez. Um. So you're not going around to Eric's, you're going around to Tony's. Uh. And as I've mentioned before, I've sort of, I know, pretty sure I've sort of glazed Brendan Allen quite a lot in this video so far. So again, try and flip it the other way. Let's pretend to be Anthony Hernandez fan this time. 6 fight win streak. More of a striker, maybe more chance of knocking out Allen, perhaps. He is the bookie's favourite, -340, but I just can't get over the golfing experience. I'm sorry, I just can't ignore that. And I can't forget how dangerous Allen can be on the ground. So again, that's just not. I can't. I just don't understand why Hernandez is the heavy favourite, other than recent form. But I can't understand why he's as heavy a favourite as he is. But anyway, we'll move on to me. Let's see who I get drawn with. Stephen Terry. Let's see who I'm up with. It's a rare second round appearance. This feels like the first time in several months I've been in the second round, and I think I might even make it through to the third round. I've got Ibo Aslan, who, as a prospect, very highly rated by me personally. Opinions may vary, but for me, he's got off to a great start for the UFC, 2-0, knocked them both out. He knocked, and yeah, he seems to be a knockout artist as well, as showed on his Contender Series appearance as well. And if he was against a more higher rated opponent in light heavyweight division, I'd probably have concerns, but I can't see any reason why he doesn't get past Owen Kutalaba. Who's especially the fact that Kutalaba's chin has been cracked before in the past. Uh, So I think this is just a really bad matchup, really. I always feel like Kutalabas actually gets matched up quite badly, quite harshly sometimes. But because the trouble with him is he'll lose a fight, usually by getting finished or by knocked out or by subs, and then he'll go fight somebody lower down, and then he'll win, which then puts him back up into the position to fight somebody capable of knocking him out or submitting him. That's what happened against uh, Johnny Walker, as what happened against quite a few, several others. The Johnny Walker fight was not even one of the recent ones now, is he? He's had quite a few in that time since. Um, but it's again currently on a little bit of a losing streak here. Lost his last two. Wait, no, he's not. Again, reading the wrong fucking shit. Right, no, he's probably is on a losing streak. I've lost track with Kutalaba's career, to be honest. But um, oh no, no, if reading the right one now. Got a win in his last one, but he's inconsistent though. It's he sort of win one, lose one, win one, lose one. That's his trouble. And against someone like Ibo Aslan, uh, that's who's got the power to knock him out, and he's been knocked out before. It's just a bad stylistic matchup there. But I'm not going to complain with that because I say that's my one. I've been ages since I've got round to the second round, let alone potentially the third. Hope Hammer just jinx this for Ibo, but we'll see. I'm fairly confident. I'm quietly confident that I'm getting through to the third round. Can't lie about that one. Right. Okay. The MMA historian is next to learn his fate at the hands of the wheel. Oh, right on the edge, but the wheel says it is Gene Silver. Gene Silver there. That's messing up my Excel as well because we already had Gene Matsumoto. So I type in Gene and then it comes up with, oh, do you mean Gene Matsumoto? No, I mean Gene Silver this time. Can be the predictive text on that can be a real curse at times. Right. Anyway, Gene Silver though is very good. Um, uh, that's a heavy favourite, -550 favourite according to the bookies. Um, and so he's come into the UFC and just started knocking everyone out. Um, and against Melsik, Bagsaryan. Again, sorry, not pronounced that right. Apologies for that one. Who's had a break from fighting. He's not been in the cage for over a year and a half almost now. Yeah, over a year and a half. And yeah, so I can see Gene Silver winning this one fairly early, either the first or second round. I've gone with second personally, but I think it's basically a free ticket to the next round for the MMA historian, in my opinion. Okay, so next up we have Trick. Uh, let's see what the wheels got in store for Trick. And Trick gets Julius Walker. Julius Walker there. Julie for don't know what's going on with that. I'm sure someone else had him earlier, but then the predictive text didn't even come up on that time. I mean, this is a new laptop actually, so maybe that's something to do with it, but I don't know. Um, it's the layout certainly looks different, that's for sure. Still getting used to the controls of it because they're way more sensitive than my old shitty one was. But yeah, it was Damien Handel that got Julius Walker as well, wasn't it? So just looking back over it, and still undefeated, but massively inexperienced, as I've mentioned. But it's only 6 fights, and his first one in the UFC against Alonso Menefeld, who's been in the UFC for a little while now. Not sure exactly how many fights in the UFC, but yeah, he's definitely by far the more experienced. He is on a losing streak, but and I suppose you could make the argument, oh, has his time come? Is he a bit washed up now? But I think, to be honest, if Julius Walker does uh, beat Menefeld, then that really is a sign that perhaps Menefeld is way past his prime. But he's still good enough for me to beat Julius Walker. Um, I think is I'm surprised he's only a slight favourite with the bookies actually. I'd have thought it'd be a heavy one, but I don't know. I'm not a, well, as I don't make the odds for these fights, so I don't know what I'm looking at. But all in all, it's not a great. Uh, I wouldn't bet on them getting through on Trig getting through. Okay, so down to the last two now. Uber Match is next up, the penultimate one. Let's see who Uber Match gets paired with for tomorrow night. And he gets Mansur Abdul Malik, who, to be honest, I was just waiting for somebody to get him because he's the heaviest favourite on the card. So he's a free ticket basically to the next round, unless there's a major upset. Unless there's how the hell are we spelling that? Mansur Abdul, I think. Yeah, but unless there's a major upset, I can't see him being beaten. Um, And like I said, the odds are minus 1,115, minus 1115, which over here we normally use fractions, so I don't even know what that would be in fractions, but it's pretty fucking big. Heavy odds on anyway. Um, I suppose if you want to make the experience argument, you can say, oh, he's inexperienced, only 7 fights, but then his opponent, Nick Klein, also in the same boat, 7 fights, but 6-1. So Mansa's 7-0, so pretty much nothing to split them in terms of experience. Um, uh, as for Abdul Malik, we've already seen him in the UFC. He Dusko Torovic got knocked the fuck out by him, quite spectacular, and it's also on the Contender Series and LFA before that. So he's got some pretty respectable regional experience going for him. Um, and so to be fair, Nick Klein's also uh, he made an appearance on the LFA. I think it's only been fighted for LFA once. I think it was just one odd fight a while back when I was looking over his records, but it was definitely on the Contender Series. But Nick Klein does appear to be better at the ground. It's a bit because most of his wins come by sub, but I, I don't think and so I know I did say earlier that when it comes to striker versus grappler, it's I do tend to favour the grappler, but it's I wouldn't even say it's necessarily a case of the striker versus the grappler. I think it's just when you consider the people that Nick Klein's been submitting have been regional level, whereas Abdul Malik has, yes, it's regional, but it's higher quality regional. And the fact that he's already been in the UFC and proven that, yeah, he can knock out a fairly respectable UFC fighter in Duska Todorovic, in the way he did it as well. All the sensible money would be going on to Abdul Malik, um, which is exactly what Ubermatch wants to hear because that means he's almost certainly getting through to the third round. Okay, so finally we've got ex-con Chris. Let's see who ex-con Chris is going to be drawn with for tomorrow night's action. But let's be honest, I think most people are going to be watching the boxing tomorrow night. Um, right. He gets Modestas Bukauskas for ex-con Chris. I feel like I've been watching this guy for ages because he was at one point he was a regular on Cage Warriors, which I always make sure to catch. Um, Still can't pronounce his name for shit though. Um, so yeah, there we go. It's or spell it even, but whatever. But first fight on the prelims, and I've gone with him to win by decision. Maybe that's a bit of the old bias from the Cage Warriors that I've just mentioned. It's possible. I'm will acknowledge that that's a very strong possibility of just being biased, but and it's up against Rafael Sir Queira. I probably not pronounced that one right. Apologies for him if I haven't, but uh, Bottas is the more experienced of the two. Not a huge difference in it, to be fair, so I won't try and play that angle again, but already 3-1 in the UFC. Uh, so it's starting to become a bit of a regular in the UFC, whereas Rafael lost his UFC debut, although that was against Ibo Aslan, which, Jesus Christ, talk about throwing in the fucking deep end of it, isn't it? It was your first fight in the UFC, get thrown with Ibo Aslan, gets knocked the fuck out. So, but that was, to be fair, you can't really take that away from him because I think most people would lose their UFC debut in that circumstance. But until then, though, he does mostly get KO wins himself. Obviously, just not no match for Aslan. But and to be honest, I think he's not going to be too much of a matchup for Bukiuskas, who I can't quite see um, approaching the fight as explosively as Aslan would, but he's definitely going to employ a more sensible game plan, control the action really. He's for 3 rounds, get the decision. That's what I've predicted him to win by. And he's happy to go the distance. He's gone distance many times before. It shows he's got the stamina for that. So I don't think he'd worry about a longer fight. But overall, that's quite I'd say it's quite a good pick. I'm expecting ex-con Chris to follow me and some of the others into the next round. Okay, so that completes the third round draw. Few minor technical issues with the Excel sheet here, but tonight, but well, we'll regarding who got drawn with who, and me reading the wrong names off of the sheets at the reading from the wrong bits, but my little notes because I can't read my own fucking writing. But I think I'm sharing my Excel sheet. Yes, I am because I'm so used to having to wait for the old laptop, and then this one just does it straight away. It's quite jarring actually. Anyway, I will just run through those names, just confirm who got who to sort out. Even though I appreciate I wasn't quite as coherent as I normally am. Not that I am ever normally coherent. Uh, so we have A with Austin Vanderford, Kanhei Rees with Javid Basharat, C. Collins 44 with Gene Matsumoto, Cheeseball with Ibo Aslan, Corhan Puke with Mekwizil Costa, Costradamus with Eric, Damien Handel 420 with Julius Walker, Dr. Maxis 2 with Mel Quizel Costa, Foghorn Sam with Anthony Hernandez, KK Kombu with Anthony Hernandez as well, Knife Rusty with Javid Basharat, Mule Floyd with Rob Font, Piggy Bank with Melsik Bagdasarian, Rigno and Shatz both got Eric as well, Eric Mokoniko, if I've pronounced it right. Sion 6 with Anthony Hernandez, me, Stephen Terry with Ibo Aslan, the MMA Historian with Gene Silver, Trig with Julius Walker, Uber Match with Mansur Abdul Malik, and Ex-Con Chris with Modestas Bukauskas. Again, probably not pronounced that one right. Okay, so that concludes the second round draw of the 27th edition of the Tapology Lucky Bastard game. And it's definitely a bit of a mixed bag. Typically, we'll see about half of the fields get eliminated from each round, and I suppose that's pretty much what I'm expecting here. I'm not going to try and link up who's been drawn with who just yet, because that's going to be too confusing. It's just make it even more confusing for myself. But I think we can expect another sort of 50-50 splits in this one. So all that leaves me to say is good luck with your fighters you've been drawn with. Good luck with your picks on Tapology. Good luck with any bets you might have on the cards. And until then, until next time, anyway, so long for now.